33 of the online dance movement, and today we're focusing on the hips, and we're doing this class for people who have a reduced range of motion. So we'll learn lots of things about the hips and really work to tone those intrinsic muscles. So let's do this. I've just got some music playing in the background. That's from the free online YouTube audio thingamajig. I do have some lovely music that I'm going to be playing, not today, because I don't want to get it wrong. I'll have to work out how to download the videos so they don't stall with the internet. But anyway, let's get going. So I'll just turn this down a little bit. We're going to start off finding how we work out where our neutral spine is, which my spine won't be a neutral spine right now. Now, yesterday I was talking a little bit about the neutral spine, and that, just to go over that, that is your natural spine, where the optimum position for your spine. When you start off as a baby, as we all start off, we've got a curved spine, and as we develop an S shape in our spines. But if it's not exactly, unless it's exaggerated and there's a problem, it's right where it's supposed to be. So the idea of working to engage the core spinal muscles is to keep our spine where it's supposed to be. So when we talk about the hips and we talk about sitting on the sit bones, there's a reason for why we do it the way we do. And that's because we're maintaining the neutral spine. So if we go over the Alexander technique to start with, we'll do that. And hopefully most people can stand up. If you can't, just do it sitting. In fact, we might do it seated to start with. And listen closely to the Alexander technique, which is all about active lengthening during relaxation. So what you're doing is you're working while you're relaxing. Hi Ornella, how are you? I went to wave, but you hadn't had the chance to even wave to me yet. So active lengthening during relaxation. Oh, yep, I waved. Now the thing is, there's no locking of the joints. You know, this is something that is talked about when we're doing the active lengthening through relaxation. We don't want to lock joints ever. I agree. Oh, that's somebody's doing a message. We don't want to lock the joints, and this is why we don't want to lock the hips. So that's one of the cues. So anyway, we're sitting up on our sit bones, and let's just go over the Alexander technique because it's completely relevant. Now, this is not the only thing. It's not the only technique I use or technical structure. I use a few different things with what I do, and I've integrated them together because this is my work, but it's not my work, if you get what I mean. So I didn't need to invent the wheel, but I needed to manage how all these things fit together, because sometimes we miss bits. You know, with one particular modality, we miss parts of other things. So sitting on our sit bones, and the sit bones, you feel them, the sit bones. Now just rock off the sit bones, rock off them, and then rock forward of them. We don't want to be forward, we don't want to be back, we want to be right on them. And we want our hips to be nice and relaxed. Hi Vida, how are you? Okay, wait, I hope you're feeling better today, Vida. All right, we're just talking about the hips, Vida, and we're working on how we know that we're using neutral spine and why we do it and why we have our hips in the position that we do. So we're sitting up on our sit bones. I've just talked about how we sit up, because sometimes we don't know. Am I meant to be forward? Am I meant to be back? I'm not really sure where they're supposed to be. Am I meant to arch my back? Hi, beautiful Vida. Thank you. So we're sitting on our sit bones, as I've said 100 times now. So allow the neck to be free. I'm going through the kind of the Alexander chant that I learned a zillion years ago, which was really useful. Allow the neck to be free. Allow the weight to feel like it's going forward and up. Allow the back to lengthen. And that lengthening is really important. If you think about the tip of your spine, the coccyx, right to the top of your head, think about that lengthening. Allow the back to widen so that everything opens. Allow the hips to release. Now, allowing the hips to release is a really important one for us today. So let's just roll back off our sit bones and let's just roll up to the middle and let's roll forward. Hi Sylvia. Sylvia, we're just going over the hips quite slowly to work on a particular thing first off. And that is, what position are we meant to be sitting in when we're sitting up? Okay, so we don't want to be back. So I'm sure I've told you to roll forward a little bit, but I want to clarify that just in case I didn't make it clear enough. So now if you think about before we move on, if you think about your hips, okay, now I'm not wearing a fitted top, that was a bit silly. So if we're rolling back, see what happens to your lower back, it kind of flattens out, doesn't it? Come back up. Now you've got your natural neutral spine now when you're sitting right up on your sit bones. If you sit forward, you see you're squashing your lower back. So you need to, if you're sitting back here, you do need to actually roll forward a bit to come up onto them, but that's different from doing that. All right, we don't want to do that. We want to be right up on our sit bones. So there is a flattening, but only to your own neutral spine, which there is a curve. You know, they went through this phase years ago where they was doing exercises in gyms. They might still do it, where they're saying flatten your back to the floor. Well, it really doesn't serve much purpose because you're not going to move like that. Anyway, they might do that. So now we're clear about that. That is why there's more. Okay, so let's stand up in the Alexander technique. I'll move back a little bit. Now, I'd really love you to take note of this information because it'll help with everything. All right, so did you see what I did? Hinge from the hips. Now, if you were going to alter your position of your spine, so if you were like that, arched back, and you tried to do it, you'd sort of come up like this, wouldn't you? And then you'd end up like that if you didn't alter your position. Or if you tucked your pelvis up, like curled it up, and then you came up, you'd sort of end up like that. That's why we just need to keep things as simple as possible. Just keep it where it's neutral. And that way you're going to do, you won't do damage. And your movement efficiency will be really good. So just forward and come up. All right, in this position. Now, this is something that's key too, and I have to explain it. So if you were going to, in ballet they used to tell us, tuck your tail under, but you experiment. First of all, let's externally rotate the legs. Okay, externally rotate the legs outwards and then bring them inwards. That's your hip stabilizer muscles working. Now if you push your pelvis forward, like tucking the tail under like they used to say in ballet, now try and move your leg muscles. Now try and move your hip stabilizers. They're kind of locked. So it's not really helpful for ballet at all. But lengthening the spine from the tip of the spine up to the top of the head is. So it may have the appearance of tucking under, but that's actually not what's happening. All right. Okay, so sitting up in our chairs, we're going to now squeeze up. Now, they're your external, they're your hip stabilizers working. It's the same as this, externally rotating. Okay, so sitting up, let's cross our arms and down and up. I didn't look at the time again. And down. Well, that was the Huey boom. And up. We'll do 4 of those, and then we're just going to Stay squeezing underneath this bottom and lift this leg just this high. Transfer the weight just a little bit. Keep squeezing underneath the bottom. That's all we're going to do, okay? But all the time lifting up. And so you're right on the sit bones. If you try to do that by tucking your tail under, you're going to strain your back. That's literally what's going to happen. So please don't do that. And don't arch either. You need to just be right on your sit bones. And then everything is going to work really well. So, I explained all that. If you didn't understand that, please let me know in the comments, because I'm happy to sort of write it down if it's not clear enough, because it's quite tricky. I think I'm sick of that one. I'm sick of that sound. This one says good for the soul. I think the UE boom's gone off. The UE boom's gone off. We'll just use that. So, squeeze up. Now just have your arms here, so not with the shoulders up though. Drawing the scapulae down. Come down. Squeeze up. The timing, I don't know what the timing is. Just follow me. Now squeeze up. Stay squeezing up. Lift one a little bit and down. Keep squeezing up. Okay, can you feel that? Squeeze up. And you're up and over the leg. You're not back here. Keep going. You'll feel it right through your legs as well. Okay, just relax. Feel that here? That's where you're meant to feel it. Okay. Let's squeeze up again. Lift up and over. Not doing this. Up and over. If you turn your pelvis, it alters, it stops, it prevents the hip flexion from happening properly. Okay. Because remember, when you do that, it locks the legs. That's the purpose of it. Squeeze. Now, take it out a little bit. Keep squeezing. A little bit. Again, keep squeezing. I'm working you. Lift up. Keep squeezing, keep lifting. All right. I'll just pause that. If I can get the mouse onto it. Okay. So, what I was going to say now is, when you're using the legs, hi Sylvia, I'll wave to you. We've got two main movements we need that happen at the hips. And these are important so that people don't trip over. And what happens when people age is they often, the ability to do hip flexion and hip extension, which is out this way, that decreases. And so then there is the risk of falling and tripping because the leg action is not happening well. So if we're doing hip flexion, we need to be up on the sit bones, not back off them, because you go back off them and then try and lift your knee up and feel the stress on your lower back. Sit right up on your sit bones now and feel when you do hip flexion how it allows that hip flexion to happen. See, up on the sit bones. And our spine is in its own neutral spine. Now, just to be working this whole area, belly button to the spine. So we did that with a note yesterday, and we've done that a couple of times, and I know there's some singers in the house who have beautiful voices, so let's just go and move the belly button to the spine. Now, when that happens, it's not this, is it? We don't want to scrunch it and squash it. That's why we need to be up. All right, so this is why the position that you're sitting in is so important, because if you're back here, you're going to be squashing. Or if you're sitting up but curling, you're still squashing. We need this to be nice and relaxed, but the internal workings need to happen. So, now when you lift your knees up, lift up and over. So if you're going to do a leg movement, you don't lean back with it. All right, it's up and over. So this is a good one to practice, even if you're able to stand up. Think up and over the leg, not back. And the more up and over you do, the more you're going to feel your hip flexors working. So this is not a really exciting movement to do, but we're going to go for a little march, okay? But I want you to feel up and over and be right on those sit bones. All right, not too forward, not too back, just right on top of them. So feel them if you can't feel them. And there was I think I've got When Johnny Comes Marching Home somewhere here. Where is it? Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes. Okay, now if that's too fast, we'll do it slower. Just little marches, just that up and over. Hands on the hips. Now there's a lot going on. Draw the scapulae down. Lift up. Keep lifting up and over. There's a proper crease here. Okay, good work. All right, now, do you feel your lower backs? Can you feel them? I can feel mine. All right, now think about, while you're sitting there, think about the concept of, in the Alexander technique, you have loose hips and loose knees. Well, soft rather, not loose. That sounds a bit funny. So soft hips, soft knees, and you're not going to achieve that if you lock anything. All right, so let's just stand up and just have a think about that when we stand up, because it applies to chair-based. It really does. But if you don't know about it, you won't know. You don't know about it. So I'm going to lock my hips. No, I'm going to soften my hips. Soften. And that doesn't mean that you're like this. It means that your spine is nice and long from the tailbone to the top of your head. Hi. And the ants went marching in. Yes, Sylvia. Did they? I hope they're not marching in here. I just made some sourdough pizza basics. They better not get those. So the spine is lengthening. Okay, you can let it lengthen, and the way you do that is you release the tension in the lower back and allow that to fall down. But again, that is different from tucking under. You see, we don't want to curve anything. We want to keep everything nice and movement efficient. And that's why we do that in the Alexander technique, and that's why we're doing that now. So, next thing we're going to do, sitting up on the sit bones, is we're going to move the hips we're going to diagonally use a bit of torsion to actually twist on the hips. We use this in a spiral movement. Nursery rhymes. Yeah. I used to sing nursery rhymes to Hannah every single day. She had this big fat book of nursery rhymes. Every day, she's 28 now. Until she was, I don't know, she was maybe 2 or 3 or maybe even 5, I don't remember. But I remember I sang, I made up all the tunes when I didn't know them. And yeah, I did that with Billy too, but not for quite as long, I remember. But I still did it with him. Okay, so got that movement going. All right, up on the sit bones. Make sure we're not back. Make sure we're not too forward. Make sure we're thinking of that spine, from the tip of the spine right up to the top. Just release that lower back. Can you feel that now when you think about releasing the lower back? So because we're using the hips now, we're going to go into using the spiral movement. Now think about the belly button to spine. Okay, think about zipping up the pelvic floor. You can, and that's actually lifting your genitalia. So you're lifting it up, so zipping it up. You can think of it as a G-string, like zipping it up from the back, but we don't want to alter the bony structure. We don't want to actually alter where the bones are. This is what's happening on the inside. And it's subtle. It's subtle like the belly button going to the spine. And so you just bring it all in so everything's nice and together. And the muscles are closest to the bones are working. So now we're going to start with the hip. This is so we'll bring I think it's your left, it's my right. The hip back, and we're going to spiral around, keep the belly button to the spine, then look over the back shoulder, and now we're going to swivel the hips in the opposite direction, and that's what starts the movement. Make sure you stay up on those sit bones, keep the belly button to the spine, keep spiraling, look over the back shoulder. Okay, hips start the movement. And look over the back shoulder. And that's all we're doing. Now while you do it, keep lifted, keep lifted, keep the hip stabilizers working throughout, and you're doing an extra workout. So, you know, we need these hip stabilizers, don't we? A way to test for the hip stabilizers before we go on, and I've said this before, so sorry if you've already seen it, but if you stand on one leg and you're sort of like this, because it sort of doesn't want to hold, if you externally rotate, okay, like we're doing in our chair, it just suddenly stabilizes you. So try the other one, and externally rotate the muscle there, and instantly it brings stability, because that's what it does. It's a hip stabilizer. And when we're standing and when we're walking, it stabilizes us with this external rotation, and it's only little. You don't have to do a lot, just to be aware of it. So when you're standing, just a little bit, and you can feel that activation there. All right, so what were we doing? Spirals. Okay, let's try this one. Nice. Okay, let's just move the hips to start with, but not with the tummy being there. Lift up and over, up and over. Remember that in Alexander, that forward and upwards feeling? Is there. Hi Anne, how are you? So we're lifting up and over. I'll wave in a second, Anne, when I can reach it. Maybe we can just take the opposite arm to leg like we're walking, but keep squeezing underneath the bottom. Keep up and over. Think about your belly button to spine. And just think how, if you apply this to your everyday walking, that belly button to spine, the scapulae drawing down, the shoulders falling apart, weight forward and up, just think what you'll look like. You look like you're gliding. There'll be a lightness to your movement. Hi Jamie, how are you? So this is what we're aiming for. Movement efficiency, joint stabilization, and feeling really good when you move, because you know how to bring that lightness and movement efficiency into your movement. Now let's just use the hip as the starting point for the spiral. Keep the belly button to the spine, keep everything lifted, pelvic floor lifted, look over the back shoulder. Now swivel the hips. Hip starts the movement on the way back, belly button to spine. Remember, we don't lean back because we're forward and up. Hip starts the movement. So there's a swivel of the hips, swivel of the hip, The hips are good. The hips are so important. It's, you know, for women, it's, you know, like it's all part of, you know, if we carry children, you know, there's a lot of responsibility on the hips. And, you know, if we don't carry children, we've still got a lot of responsibility on our hips, haven't we? Whole life on our hips. They say, well, the whole life on your shoulders. I don't know, I reckon it's on the hips. And the shoulders probably too. Okay, I'll just wave. I love to wave. Hi, Anne. Hi, Janie. Okay, so let's now do something with the legs. Actually, we can do, I think we'll do the upper body now to move down into the hips, so we're using that with it. We haven't done anything with scapular stabilization yet. Am I going for time? Because I never check it properly, do I? So scapular stabilization, so we'll do that because we're working with the hips. That's my UE burn going right off now. You can come back on, you can. So I think I'll put on a bit of music so it decides to stay on. We're going, just follow me for this one. Draw the scapulae down, squeeze underneath the bottoms, feel up and over on your hips because remember this is for the hips. Okay, draw the scapulae down. It's not very loud, is it? That's better. Squeeze, 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 scapulae drawing down. Down. Keep squeezing. Keep drawing the scapulae down. Just a little bit. Oh, tricked you then, didn't I? Keep squeezing. I think I should have gone straight into that. Keep squeezing. Started at 4:30. Oh, thanks, Ornella. Thank you. Ornella's my timekeeper. Sorry, Ornella. Little tiny circles, keep squeezing. The other one, just a little tiny squeeze, just off the ground. Okay. Lift up and over. Come forward. Bring the foot up. Come round to the other side. Just do it carefully. Squeeze up, squeeze up. Oh, that was a bit high with the arms, wasn't it? I'm squeezing, lifting up. All right, I'll pause that for a second because I want to do something else with the hips because this is about the hips. We're going to go, I want to work out a way I can do this and I'm not going to hurt anyone. All right, let us try, okay. Let us just try coming back. If you've got a chair, I've got this wooden bit in the way, but if you can, position yourself on the side, all right, or you can sit straight on the chair, depending on what sort of chair you're on. And by the way, when you're sitting on your chair, you shouldn't be too low, should you? You should be at about 90 degrees or a bit higher so that you don't have that stress on your hips and on your knees. All right, so let's just sit here and we're going to lift up one, drop one knee and then push it back, but just be really careful. All right, just push the knee back and feel it into your bottom just once. And then we're going to go zip over here. We've done this in the more advanced class, but we're doing just a modified version so that it's not too hard. Hopefully it's not too hard. Just drop your knee down and just push the knee back so that you feel it into your bottom. So you won't want to be doing this.
You just want to sit up on your sit bone, hold onto the chair, and then come to the other side. And we're going to drop the knee. Okay, just that. Oh, actually, we won't even do this with music. We'll just do this now. Do something else with music. And just feel that there. All right. Okay. Now we're going to do this. And we're going to do, so just make it 10 to 2 with the feet. If this is going to hurt the knees, don't put them in this position. But I think most of you should be all right. We're going to do, again, we're going to do a spiral. But this time we're going to take our arms up. And then we're going to bring them around to the other side. Okay? So we're going to do this. And we're going to do this now. You should be working these hips now. Now they're in a different position, so different muscles are going to be used. And we're still spiraling those hips. You're up on your sit bones. You're not back, you're not like this. Wouldn't work if you were tucking your tail under in this position, would it? You need to be up on your sit bones. So let's do this with the music. And then we're getting close to the end. Let me see. I think creeping spiders. Hips, lift up, lift up. Scapulae down, belly button to spine. Can you feel it working your hips? You should. Okay, lift it up. Lift up and over. Lift up and over. Lift up and over, not back. Open out. Lift up. Lift up. Turn it in. Turn it out. This leg, foot's on the ground. Turn it out. Turn it in. Lift up and over. The foot's on the floor. Sorry if you can't see that. Other leg. In. Out. In. Out. Wherever it's easy for the arms. Lift up. Don't lean back. Up on the sit bones. Now with the foot flexed. Out. Reach through the heel. Go right in. Go right out. In. Out. In. Oh, it's doing it again. Thought it finished. All right. Now, let's just, because we will, let's just bring our arms up to here and bring the backs of the hands together. Lift up. Stay up on your sit bones, belly button to spine. Okay, now for those who are watching who have decreased range of movement in their joints, actually yesterday's class for the whole spine is probably a class you can do, and we covered more of the spine. Today we really just worked on the hips, and that's okay. We worked on hip flexion a lot. We didn't do much on hip extension, And that's because we're sitting in a chair and it's a little difficult. So perhaps before we finish, oops, Gina, get up correctly. We're going to maybe just hold your chair. If you can stand up, that is. We're going to stand, okay, externally rotate the legs, use your hip stabilizers. And now we're just going to pick up one foot and now just do a tiny lunge. And as you do that, try and use that hip stabilizer. Don't do this. Remember, we don't do that. We don't push in. Think about your spine in this position. The tailbone, you want it to lengthen. All right, you want it to lengthen. So there you go. And then come back. So it's the way you do it. It's not how much you do even. Hi, Sylvia. Okay, so squeeze and externally rotate, lift up, let that tailbone, let the lower back release, but you feel the extension here when you do that. You see, so you're working that. And if you squeeze underneath the bottom there and externally rotate, you're using that movement to its fullest. So if you think about walking and using your hips when you're using gait, when you're walking on that push-off part of the walk, all right, you're using that external rotation just a little bit. At first, to try and do that when you're walking, it feels really unco. You're sort of like, okay. But if you start to get in tune with that little bit of external rotation on the push-off, it'll start to become really easy, and then you'll think, oh yeah, okay, I'm using my glute medius in my walking. And then that makes it easier for you to then use your hip flexion and pick up, you know. So these things work better. So anyway, maybe I'll do a session on gait one time. But that's just a little introduction to it. Just get in tune with your glute medius. Get in tune with your glute medius. Know that when you're standing up, if you're using your glute medius, it's not going to work as well if you do that. It just won't. And if you're sitting on your sit bones, you need to be right up on the sit bones. Hi Nicole, how are you? We're just about finished, Nicole, but you can watch it. You can go back to the start and watch it in a minute. So anyway, the main message is work that glute medius, stay right up on your sit bones, engage your core abdominals, and then when you engage your core abdominals, it will take your spine to its own neutral spine because everything will be supported, and then you'll have this beautiful movement efficiency. And I think that's the end. So I'm going to give you a little curtsy, give Nicole a little wave. Thank you for being here, everyone. I know I talked quite a lot today, but hopefully it's useful so that when you do other classes, you'll be able to apply these things, won't you? So day 33 is over. I'm going to go back now and finish the pizzas, the sourdough pizzas I made, you know, just a few carbs tonight. Anyway, see you later. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow maybe.